Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Vernon Richard Show. Richard Show, go, I'm going to get that right one day. Hello, everyone, my name's Richard.
And I'm Vernon.
If you've not listened to the first episode, it was called The Smoke Test, so the fact you're listening to the second one, that smoke test may have passed.
Yeah.
Or we're still recording and we've not put it live yet, who knows? But yeah, we'll find out whenever you're listening to this. So, Vernon, me and you got the chance to catch up face to face. Was it last week before at PeersCon?
Bloody hell! When was it?
Who knows?
I remember.
It was recently. But yeah, so PeersCon was the first. It was the inaugural PeersCon conference put on by the testing peers.
Yes.
And yeah, it was. How was it for you, Vern?
I thought it was absolutely fantastic. It was really the fact that it was the first one, the fact that it was the as you say, inaugural. I can't even say it. Inaugural.
You said it better than me, to be honest.
Right?
Yeah.
The inaugural PeersCon 2024 conference. Just ridiculous. Like it was their first conference. There were 150 people there, 2 tracks. The standard of the talks was ridiculous. I didn't get to the other track because I was volunteering and I had to stay in the main room. You know, it was crazy. The fact that they could do it for that price on the ticket, I think, was also completely bonkers. So yeah, really well done. They should be really proud of themselves. Really proud.
Absolutely. I think the indie punk roots, as it was being spoken about, I think they smashed it. It was it was honest. It was no frills, but they said it was going to be that way, right? They were like, we just want to get the peers in the room and just see what happens. And I thought they did a really stellar job, and they said they're going to do it again. So we're going to chat about the talks and topics and conversations we had at PeersCon. So if you're enjoying that, make sure we'll put links in we need to get used to this, don't we? We'll put links in the description somewhere there. And yeah, you can check out them. They've got a great podcast, which they do, I think, every couple of weeks. There was a really good episode recently with some very handsome chap called Richard talking about automation. But so yeah, definitely check out the testing pairs if you've not already. But yeah, let's have a chat about the kind of the topics we learned about, and just general how we enjoyed the day. So first one that I think, well, there's a few I didn't go to, but I know you, because you were volunteering, you were at them all, right? But the opening keynote with Heather Reed, good friend of ours as well, was weights that's not tested. So she spoke a lot, if I remember correctly now, about kind of the topic of not having to thoroughly test or design everything, like putting stuff out there that may not be 100% what you want it to be, but enough to kind of get feedback and get useful information from it. And with a topic that triggered me, or that I remember the most from it, well, I say that it's because I wrote it down in this book, but it was enough for me to write it down, was we hear a lot about the word MVP, don't we, like minimum viable product?
Yeah.
But she was talking about minimum shippable risk, and I thought it was like, it's like,
it was like,
yeah, like we were just chatting before pressing record about needing more like clothes and stuff, like get it on a t-shirt, right? Like, where's the sticker for that? But it made a lot of sense. So yeah, what did you think about this Heather's talk?
I could listen to Heather talk all day, and what I like about what she was saying is that it was very much about data and not guessing.
Yes.
And the minimum shippable risk was really cool, because it was, I don't know, some people might say, oh, that's just an unnecessary tweak of MVP. But I think
semantics.
I think because MVP has been around so long, it seems to be the case that what happens in software development is a new term comes out and it hangs around for a long time, and then it just morphs and changes into something really weird and completely away from the thing it was
Yeah.
trying to describe in the first place. So I think minimum shippable risk like refocuses everything back to where it should be. It's like, what is the smallest thing that we can ship that can test our hypothesis about what it is we want to make?
Yeah.
And it is a hypothesis. And so her talk was really cool because it compared and contrasted some of the things that her team and her company have built that took a long time and didn't have the results that they hoped, and some other stuff that they shipped that took like a fraction of the time that they thought and had outlandish results as a result. And she really described well how those things interplay with each other. So I thought it was awesome, and Heather's just generally awesome. And
Yeah, I found it really interesting, and like I know they were talking about like their culture, about like basically I can't remember what the book she recommended was, but you're basically taking a bet, and what is that smallest bet you can do, and with the data that you have, that's going to give you more information to be able to progress, but not such a bad job that people are going to open it and go, "What the hell is this?" And I found that kind of that like. I've not had that culture. I overthink everything, right? I'm a massive overthinker. So for me, like to train myself to go into that space, I think is going to be a challenge for me, but one that I'm actually going to be going on soon. But I found the example she gave was like fascinating. It was about booking your favorite spot at the gym. And like their original requirement was to have something like the seat maps that you get on airplanes, right? Like nice graphics, you can see who's gone and what's not gone. And the design team wanted this fancy graphic, but then obviously every gym's different. It's got a different layout. Like it's quite a technical challenge. And then they ended up with literally just a list: seat 1, seat 2, or even that. It was like position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that was it. You just clicked it, and then I think the smart thing they added was they added a little feedback thing, didn't they, into the top right? I can't remember exactly what it said now, but it was like, if you care enough to give us feedback on this idea, and then that helped them, evolve it, and they never ended up doing this crazy seat map Ryanair style thing that would have cost them, hundreds of thousands of euros to implement. They implemented something which I think she said was about 150,000 euros, and it did the job. Wasn't pretty, wasn't singing, wasn't bells and whistles, but solved the customer's problem. And I think if you can get that culture, like that would be pretty cool.
That's key, isn't it?
Yeah,
it was a great talk.
But on that note, though, I know that you're releasing something soon in the same vein, right? Of this, what's the minimum we can get out there? Can we get a little insight into what you might be releasing soon, or can we not?
Wait, what? Me? What am I releasing?
Yeah. You sent me a little screenshot a few days ago of
Are you talking about the mistakes that people make when they're doing Joker? So I've written. I didn't know you were going to do that. So I've written. I'm learning about writing, as some of you may know. So, in with that in mind, I've created this. It's an email course basically. It's what we call an educational email course. And so I have written a 5-day educational email course. So if you opt into it, you will see it. You can opt into this course, and you'll get over the course of 5 days, you'll get drip fed information about 5 mistakes that people make when they adopt or try to take on the role of a quality coach. And I think what Rich is getting at is that is a much wiser thing to do than to go and build the entire bloody, all singing, all dancing, online course. You go and sign up for Teachable or, do you know what I mean, Kajabi, and spend a gajillion quid, and you get all your video and lighting, and you get all your makeup done. And you spend months and months and months creating the syllabus. And you do all this
technology and lighting and push cameras and microphones and
Elgato. If you want to sponsor this podcast, that would be absolutely fucking amazing. Because your boy needs some equipment. God damn it. Getting all the Elgato stuff. But you don't even know if there's any interest. You don't even know if people, if there's a need, if there's a desire for it. And so this really, I mean, I didn't even need to make that. I could have even done something even smaller. I could have just said, hey, excuse me, hey everyone, I'm going to make a course about this. Here's the URL. Go and check it out. And then on the URL, you just, as soon as people hit yes, I would like to think, you could tell them, oh, well, actually beforehand, you could kind of describe it, position it as, I am going to write this course. Here's what's going to be in it. If you are interested, press this button, join the waiting list, and when it's ready, we will let you know.
Yeah.
And that will give you a chance to gauge the interest on the thing. All you've written is one opt-in page or one landing page. You haven't written anything, you haven't bought anything. But that will enable you to gauge the interest before you've committed any large resources to it. So yeah.
There you go. So you've made it. You've reduced the risk. You've shipped not the minimum, the minimum you could have done, but like still small enough. Whereas we know for a fact that ain't me. Like I want to be where I want to be in that space. Like the space you're in now, trying to move into and operate in, what Heather was talking about. I'm I've got to perfect this thing. I've got to make it the best it can be. It takes 2 years, get it out there, and then no one uses it. So I know that's a mistake and a trait that I have that I'm trying to shift. I remember Heather called me a perfectionist like a couple of weeks ago, and like it's a useful trait in some spaces, but like if you're trying to get stuff out there quickly, see what sticks in the cheapest, low effort way. Yeah, I need to get some new practices. So thank you, Vernon. Thank you, Heather.
Progress beats perfection, man. You've got to get it out there, get some data, and then figure out what's going on.
Get it on a t-shirt, then.
Swag is coming. Don't worry about that. The Vernon Richard show swag is incoming.
I like it. Right, what was next for you, Vern? What was next on your takeaway list?
God, what was next on my I think I'm going to skip straight to, well, on Twitter, in fact, on all social media, I call myself the tester from Leicester. But it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, there are more. I'm not just the tester from Leicester. In fact, I am a tester from Leicester because there was another tester from Leicester at the PeersCon 2024, and he goes by the name of Jit Gosai. And listen, if you've not ran into Jit online or in person at a meetup or at a conference, something like that, you are missing out. You need to get involved. Like, you need to go and check out his newsletter, which I didn't have prepared. That's terrible. But definitely jump on LinkedIn, follow Jit, connect with Jit. He writes an amazing newsletter. Every time he talks about anything to do with software development, software quality, software testing, leadership, it's done in a really thoughtful, easy to digest manner. He puts a lot of effort into it. His slides, good grief.
Yeah.
The way
he's a Prezi person though, isn't he? Loves a bit of Prezi. Yeah.
Prezi fiend. But the thing I got from his talk is that psychological safety is not about creating environments where there is zero challenge for people. That is not what it's about. What it is about having a place where people can learn and grow and be challenged, but it isn't in a way that is threatening. I'm probably not explaining this as well as Jit would explain it, but that was the key thing for me. And I was really glad that he explained that and called that out, because sometimes people can say, oh, you just want a safe space, that means you don't want to debate anything. It's like, no, it's about establishing some ground rules and some trust so that you know when you are challenged, it isn't about you, it isn't ad hominem. It's like people establish some ground rules and create some space where challenge is welcome, growth is welcome, we can bring our whole selves. It doesn't feel risky to talk about some aspect of yourself. And I thought it was fantastic talk.
Yeah, I think that's like, firstly, Jit's also, maybe he's from Leicester, but he's moved to Manchester, so he's clearly a smart guy as well. So
that's totally outrageous. Yeah. That's outrageous.
But yeah, I feel psychologically safe on this podcast, Vernon.
Well done.
But yeah, his quality engineering newsletter, it's quality eng substack.com. But again, we'll do the whole in the link magic that we'll learn how to do. But yeah, that was a really good talk, and I've got a lot of time, as you said, for Jit. And I think the takeaway from me was that it's not just about saying you can do it. It's like, this is a safe place. You can kick back or put your opinions or whatever it is. Is it actually happening? So are you fostering a place that allows that to happen, but then in a safe way? And also, like, I think he gave an example. I'm trying to remember exactly, but it was an example of like someone's not said anything, and then someone goes, "Oh, Vernon, you've not said anything. Is that safe? Like, I've actually got nothing to say." And now I'm on the spot going, "What do I say?" And it's like, well, you can say whatever you want. It's a safe space. It's like, I don't want to say anything. There's nothing I want to add. But yeah, he really broke that talk down well. So I think if you're interested in that topic, give him a follow. I'm sure he's share slides, or he might have other written materials on it. But yeah, definitely a chat worth following. Incredibly knowledgeable, talks very concisely. And also we learned on the way to the social after the conference, didn't we, that he was the first one that he usually memorizes his talk, he said. But because he was making such subtle, concise points, he went with key cards, whatever they're called, cards. And again, I love that he did that, because it's like, some people be like, oh, he's reading from his phone, like worst presenter ever. And it's like, well, there's a context for everything, right? There's a reason people are doing that. And he did it because he was talking about something very important that impacts us all. Even if your company doesn't talk about it, it still may or may not be happening. And like, I really, I give him top props and credit for doing that.
Yeah. Shout out to you. We're fans over here, Jit. You know that.
We're fans. Well, for me after that, it was actually before that, was a guy called Al Goodall, who I have spent quite a bit of time with, helping him with his talks, with his public, not just speaking, just, general sharing. And to see him do his first talk was kind of cool. I just enjoyed just watching it. And it was not that I wouldn't have posted about any other talks, but I posted about his on LinkedIn just because I connected with it from the topic, but also him as a person. And I was like, So yeah, for people that weren't there, I was talking about his journey into leadership and how he stepped into this leadership role. But he was really open about it. He was very open about the challenges that he faced, how for him it became all about the people, and he took his eye off himself. Like, he wasn't looking after his own growth, his own health, his mental health as well. He was very open about that. He suddenly became all about the other people, because I'm a leader now. Like, it's all about my people. I've got to look after them. And he was like, no, that's definitely not the case. Like, yes, you do look after them, but you can't look after them if you ain't looking after yourself. And I think that was kind of one of the strongest things I took away from his talk.
Yeah, I had a similar feeling of I don't know. I was just happy to see him on stage, presenting at all, and it was a really kind of inspiring talk in a way, because he didn't, as you say, he didn't try and sugarcoat the fact that he made a few mistakes, and he made peace with that, and he's like, look, the mistakes are going to happen. That's completely normal. So I enjoyed his talk a lot. I didn't get a chance to talk to him afterwards. I wanted to talk to him about some of the specific points he was making, just to really understand properly what he meant by some of the things. But it was a great talk. I'm gutted that they weren't recorded.
Right, so ticket.
That's not a pop at you, Piers, at all. It just
you know what? It's not. It's a valid thing to bring up though, because hopefully some of them listening, if the ticket, what was the ticket? Was it 20 quid this year?
20 quid, man.
20 quid. So maybe if it was 30 quid next year and we get recordings, I'd happily justify that. That for me justifies that extra tenner. So I know they were going to talk about how they're open with their prices and stuff. Like, for me, I'd happily pay that extra money to get the recordings, not because I'm going to watch them, but because I then know I could. If I need to do that. But yeah, Al, fantastic talk, mate. Really great to see you up there. Hope you continue to do some more. And I think the final thing I took from Al's talk was that he spoke a lot about trying to learn. He was watching courses, reading articles, he was reading books, and he was like, yes, they can help you and prepare, but until you actually do it and you
Right.
start doing the job,
Right.
like it was very different. And he was like, I learned a lot more just trying to do it than I ever did trying to read these, books and everything in advance and take these courses. So I found that, like, again, just a really open and honest, insight into his approach.
Mm-hmm.
And you absolutely smashed it, Al. Really proud. I'd love to see you on another stage soon. Fingers crossed.
Can I talk about another talk? Or do we have to stop talking about PeersCon?
Nah,
Or can
we're
I
gonna
talk
do a
about?
whole PeersCon episode. Why not? Because
Oh,
they
good.
were all great talks. So why not?
Okay. Because the other talk that I liked, got a lot of fun, was Beth Clark's talk about being the glue on the team, and it was basically a talk about DevOps and why. So Beth is a DevOps. Is she DevOps engineer? Is that what she calls
Yeah,
herself?
yeah.
The DevOps engineer, and her storytelling ability. Bro, listen, and she did this. Oh, she's a devil, because it's like she started. It's like she did Star Wars Episode 4 first. So she's like, oh, here's what we're doing at the company that I'm at. So she works for what's an oil and gas company, right? So very, very serious stuff. But she started at, well, this is what we do now. And she just described the context and described all the cool practices that DevOps gives you and how they've helped at her organization and some of the things that she's done to instill that. But what she didn't talk about was how she got from where they were when they arrived to now. So I was like, please, could you do that talk next? Because I would like to know how you did that. But the talk that she did at PeersCon was absolutely brilliant. And why I liked it is because it talked about glue work, which is a topic I'm fond of.
Yeah.
But also, it really distilled how I felt when I first heard about DevOps, which I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is all about testing. There's no stress or drama or fear here whatsoever. And I know over the years, there have been constant, different accusations or moments where it's like, oh, testers, you're all in the shit now. And I
Engineers
think
are in there right now. Like all the memes I've seen recently about like there's what's the one where you go, "Is this your first time?"
that one is
Like
so good.
all these memes now, like developers are like, "Oh, Devlin's coming from our jobs." Like,
We
oh yeah,
need to get that in the show notes. I thought it was a really good talk because it really explained why, testers, DevOps is our friend. It's all about testing. We should embrace it. Here's how it makes our lives easier. So yeah, I thought it was a great talk. And I'm hoping for the prequel talk.
yeah. I was gonna say, like, it was an absolute fantastic delivery.
Oh,
It was humorous. It was just, it was very chill. But yeah, that topic of like glue work and it's like you always like. I know that topic was specifically about DevOps, but it also makes me think about the shift from tester to QE, and like you're
listen,
just doing a little bit more of that glue.
here's the thing. So my understanding of glue work, my favorite thing about glue work as a concept, and I learnt this by watching and rewatching and rewatching and rewatching again, Tanya Riley's talk about glue work, is that it's at its core, it is technical leadership.
Okay.
And so what Beth was talking about was going into a situation where she was a single DevOps engineer, which I know is a little bit of an oxymoron. No, I get that. Let's put that to one side. You know what I mean? She's gone into this team. She's the youngest person on that team. So all the engineers have worked at that company for a long time. And the domain is something that they've been in for a long time. And I don't think Beth had been in that domain before.
No.
And yet she was able to lead the transformation from, we do not collaborate, we do not use tools, we do not know what the hell we're building from 1 minute to the next, to now they're collaborating, they're using tools, they're using data, So I think it's technical leadership. It's glue. The way I describe glue work is the kind of work that nobody officially owns, but if those things don't happen, whatever you're working on is going to fail. It's going to fail. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not going to work. And so, if you think about it, it could be. What are the examples that I saw Okay, so one of them is someone in the organization is having a really difficult conversation with a bunch of other people from the organization, which means that they don't know what to build. So if you can go in there, if you spot that and go in there, facilitate that, awesome. The problem is if you've been positioned as the tester, quite often people's first reaction is, what are you doing here, tester? Get over there and interact with the product, leave this stuff to us, or people. But if you just change the job title from tester to engineering manager, no one's asking those questions. Absolutely no one. And so if you get positioned as a technical leader, which Beth clearly is, no one's asking you any questions. She got positioned like beautifully. Well, all I can imagine is listening to the talk. She got positioned absolutely beautifully, and then she just went to work and smashed it. So yeah, if you get a chance to hear that talk from Beth, highly recommend. And Beth, if this podcast crosses your path, please create the prequel talk, because I would like to know how you even went from step 0 to step PeersCon. That would be awesome.
There you go. There's the request. All right. So, I think the other talk, the other keynote was Lee Rathbone.
Lee Rathbone.
So that guy brought some energy, and I learned a few things about Lee. He was talking about let me find the right title just so I get this right. What's the Rathbone here? The history of testing and why it's important, like shaping the future. And number one, I've learned that I should never give Lee Rathbone anything of any value in any.
Outrageous.
We learned that Lee likes to steal things from his employers, especially mobile phones.
That's probably
we have no evidence for this. This is pure hearsay, right?
I was going to say, it's probably a good job that talk was not recorded. My God.
But there was one thing that came up for me, which made me. I was nodding my head through most of it. I was like, yeah, definitely agree with that. But then he was talking about like debates on LinkedIn that he reckons damaged some of the testing craft. We didn't name names, but we all I'm not saying everyone does know listening to this, right? There's a couple of thought leaders to think of a good title who have very strong opinions on terminology, semantics, what testing is, blah blah blah, right? And they're very let's say direct and unpleasant on social sometimes. And he was saying how those debates basically were being seen by non-testing people. They were being viewed by engineers and engineering managers and leaders, and he believes that had a negative impact on the view of testing in QE and QA. So yeah, I haven't seen it. I think that's why I was listening to it and I was going, yes, I saw the arguments, yes, I saw the debates, probably involved in some of them, I can't remember anymore. But
definitely.
Yeah, probably. But then it was like I never for a moment thought, I wonder what anyone else outside of this is thinking. Because I was in it thinking I'm gonna learn something here, or I'm gonna shape the way this is, or I'm gonna, voice my opinions or whatever. I wasn't thinking anyone looking in, and it made me pause for a moment and think, like, whenever I post or start topics on socials or whatever, it's always like I think I'm just talking to other QEs and testers, but I know my audience is not just QEs and testers, and it's now starting to realize, oh, actually, you know what? Maybe there is another angles we should be considering.
While you were talking, you reminded me of a post that I saw this morning on LinkedIn. Yeah, it was another topic. So I think the topic, if I remember rightly, if I'm wrong, Rich, but the topic that Lee was referring to was testing and checking.
Yes, it was. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I know that is really polarizing for some people. I know that folks in the context-driven testing community like to talk about this topic. I consider myself to be part of that community, and I find there is utility in that distinction, but some people find it hideously irritating and annoying and without value. And there was another post that Caleb made. It looks like it was made a few days ago, and it's about mindset, and it's about this builder mindset and the testing mindset. And I thought that was another polarizing conversation, but in the I must remember to put that in the show notes as well, Rich. But I really liked the conversation that happened in the comments beneath that post. It's not to say that it wasn't spicy, going back to Jit's earlier point. I think it wasn't that you couldn't disagree firmly. It was good. Like, people came and brought their different opinions. And I wish that all debates could be like that. I wish all disagreements could be like that. But sadly, that is not the case. But I will say, I think Lee had a point. I think in some parts of the software development community, the broader one, I think those conversations did,
I think
if
so.
you pardon my French, fuck things up for testers. I think because of the way it was much more the nature of the debate. It felt like more than the actual topic itself. I mean, the topic itself was problematic for some people, but on top of that, it was the way that people debated it that seemed to be, a problem as well. Like I spoke to, I won't name names, but I spoke to somebody who is not a tester, but loves testers and testing and writes and talks about it all the time. And he, reading between the lines of what he said, he was like, yeah, really, that was not great. So, how you feel about that is how you feel about that,
And I think there's a fascinating space in it that is, it's not the right medium for some of those things to happen. And I think I don't even like the word debate, but I know what you mean though. Like those conversations were viewed by other people, and it just made us look like a bunch of idiots. I think that's what Lee said. You know what I mean? Like, we're just bickering and arguing and not actually progressing the craft, right? There is subtle pieces of information in some of those conversations, but they just look unpleasant, like the way those wings are, and the people in those conversations, I don't engage on their posts anymore, because I just know what they turn into. But yeah,
Oh, man. Okay.
Hey,
You just avoid completely.
yeah. So if I see I'll name names. If I see a thread with James back in it, I don't engage. I don't engage because, number one, I value his insights into the testing, but it's not someone I want to have a conversation with. It's just more from an energy point of view, to be honest with you. Like, I'm not. If I'm in a space where I want to do that, I'd rather talk to James directly, or perhaps go to a peer workshop or something like that. I don't feel like LinkedIn's going to be a beneficial place for me to start having debates. There is opportunity. There is cases like recently where I spoke about the automation and testing course, and that, I'll speak up if I'm very strongly about it. I'll speak up. But if it's just another case of me, picking on one of the 4 fine details that's been brought up and going, I disagree with that one. I don't see the value in that now. Like, I'd actually feel that I'd probably get more value by perhaps making my own thread about that, or starting a blog post about that, or maybe chatting to you on here about that. But I don't feel that those LinkedIn comments is the best place to be. Go to a forum, right? Go to a better medium, basically, to have those kind of in-depth conversations.
That makes sense. The way, that makes a ton of sense, actually. And I love how you put that. It's like, I've got to save my energy for. There's better uses of my energy right now than harrowing on LinkedIn with people. That I think that's an undefeatable argument. You're just like, look, I'm just not interested in that. Sorry. What are you going to do? What I would say is, it's kind of related to what we were saying about JIT and psychological safety, I think. Or maybe a different way to put it is, what's psychologically safe for me is not psychologically safe for the next person. And I think the problem with these debates on the internet, or one of the problems, is the rules of engagement are not necessarily discussed ahead of time. Right? So it's like, oh, some people think because you put the post in a public forum, I can say anything I like about that thing. And some people don't want to hear anything. They just want to speak and not be challenged. And then there's all the spectrum in between that. But no one has really explicitly said, here are my rules for engagement. When I post on LinkedIn, here's what I want you to do. You know, imagine if you had that preamble on every single post. Like, here's the rules. Before we go any further, this is the rules of engagement. It'd just be hideous. So,
but it would be hideous. But I also think that it's about picking the right medium. Like, I'm not saying it's a free for all when you do that on LinkedIn, and it probably shouldn't be. Like, people should be a bit more respectful sometimes. But you are opening yourself up for that because you put it on LinkedIn. Like, if you did it maybe on a community forum that has a code of conduct or some kind of rules in place, like you said, like the rules aren't defined for LinkedIn. There is no rules, right? It's like the same for like, Twitter or whatever, or you post it and you turn the comments off. Like people do that on their YouTube videos. I've seen people turn comments off. Or perhaps you post it on your blog instead and turn the comments off. So I think sometimes it's a case of if you just want to make a point, you can do that. If you want to engage, that's why when I mentioned about the text that you put in it, you can frame your text to invite that conversation in the manner that you want it. Or you can write your post in a way that, and I obviously said this when people do public speaking for the first time, right? If you want to have not nice, but like an easier time with your first talk about your experiences, because no one can tell you that you're wrong. So if you want to frame a conversation around like you believe that checking is this, right? You can talk about it from your experiences and then no one can really criticize you. Whereas if you write a post that says all automated testing is checking, it's got nothing to do with testing whatsoever, full stop.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it, right? You've offered no argument, you've offered no justification, you've not done anything. I think that's what tends to happen sometimes. We don't see enough of the reasons for posting, and they're shaping it in a way that's either going to invite conversation and then you get to define the rules, or you should, in my opinion, at least hint at some of what you're looking for. Or you write it in a way that's just, you're basically saying, come at me. And sometimes that's what you want. I've done that. I've written stuff and gone, come on, just come at me. Come on, let's do it. Like,
come on in, mate.
Yeah. And sometimes, though, that's a great topic of finding out information. Like, I've done that in the past when I want to learn about a topic. If I don't know a lot about a topic, you can use social media to be like, all testing is checking. That's that's it. And then someone will post saying, actually, I disagree. I think it's this. You go, oh, thank you for that blog post or whatever, right? You can shape it and you can manipulate social media to help you with whatever you're trying to do. But for me, I could frame that differently, and to avoid this nasty debate, I could be like, I don't know a lot about topic A. I'm keen to learn about topic A. My current thoughts on topic A are this. Help me. Right? Mm-hmm. Now, no one wants to go at me. No one's going to come at me now. If they do come at me, they're going to do it in a friendly, engaging manner. There'll still be people, of course, yeah.
There'll be still potential for rowing in the comments, because person A will come and say, hey, Rich, here's what you need to know about this topic. And the person B will say, that is absolutely incorrect. No, you're setting them up for failure. This is what you need to... So, but I like the way you phrase that. It was very nice. What I always go back to, as ever, because it's me, is coaching. Yeah. And what I find frustrating on both sides, or all sides, or however many people involved, is there's quite often a lack of curiosity. I find that incredible. And I was listening to an episode, I'm going to be talking about this for years. So Adam Grant was on the Dive Sea a couple of weeks. That episode was mega for me, man. So there were a couple of concepts on there that he talked about that I'm trying to dig into a bit more. One of them was people talk either like, I'm going to get it wrong, a politician, a priest, what's the other one? Hang on. a preacher, a prosecutor, or a politician. So if you're in preacher mode, so these are the three modes that people spend too much time talking and thinking like.
Oh, I think there's four, mate. There's four. I've just had a quick Google.
Well, there's preacher, which is when you're proselytizing your own ideas, just like preaching and just sharing, this is the only way. And then there's a prosecutor where you're like, you are wrong and your idea is trash. And then the other one is a politician, which is, well, I'm not going to answer the question straightly, and I'm only going to speak to you if you agree with me. And so the way what
there's one more. There's the scientist.
Well, this is, mate, spoilers, bro. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
Edit that out.
No, you don't have to. But no. So the way to avoid that is to think like a scientist, and what that really means is that you don't let your ideas become your identity. And so there are two ways where you can avoid that. So one, or at least according to Adam, that is. So what Adam talks about is you can either think that beliefs are important or values are important. Or you can either like base your identity in beliefs or values. And beliefs are things that you think are true. And values are things that you think are important. And why is that important? See what I did there? That's important because if I base my identity in things that I think are true, if someone tells me that I'm wrong, that's a problem. Now, that's a major problem. Like you are directly attacking my identity. Whereas if my identity is based in things that I think are important, if you tell me that I'm wrong, I'm like, oh, I need to know that, because, you know, my goal is not to be right. My goal is to live up to my values. And so if I can do that in a better way, I need to know when I'm wrong. And so you're not threatened by being wrong. And so when I look at some of the conversations that happen online and in person, it's too many people are trying to be right instead of trying to get right. That's the way I have a saying, or I have a belief, which is I prefer getting right instead of being right. Like, I want to get right. And the only way I can get right is by finding people that I can trust, ideally, to tell me when I'm wrong, who have different perspectives to me. But when you look online, there's like an absence of curiosity. Like, to your point, people will post something and either will not want to hear any feedback, they're not curious about any other views, or people are just like, you are wrong, Rich, what you said was incorrect. And there's no curiosity about how did you arrive at that conclusion? So yeah, that's what I think.
And you think you've made me think two ways there as well. So like that angle of you're wrong, there's two ways to respond to that, isn't there? The one is, no, I'm not. You're wrong. Or the second one is, tell me why you think I'm wrong. Like, you know, elaborate on it a little bit. Give me some of those insights, maybe the scientific, like maybe you're prompting that scientific kind of response, as opposed to, do you just believe this and you don't really know why? Or is it one of your core beliefs that's just ingrained and you can't verbalize it very well anymore? Because I had that same problem with teaching, right? You make seismic shifts in your thinking. It's quite hard to unravel it to teach somebody else. But if you engage in, if you engage in a way that prompts it, and I think that's the difference with the way people use, like you said, social media. It's either, like you said, those four like types, but also I think some people are just want to stick it out there. Like you said, they're not engaging in the responses. So it's like, well, why put it on LinkedIn? Just put it in a diary. Like, you know, if like or you know, if it's an inspirational thing that you want to share or whatever, put it somewhere that might have more longevity. You know, stick it on a blog. You know, stick it. I don't know, write an ebook. I don't know about it, but something that's going to live a lot longer than a day, right? Because that's the lifespan of LinkedIn. Like, you know, you can go find stuff, of course you can, but most people don't. It's timeline gone. Yeah, right? And like, I think I think people need to. I'd love to encourage people basically to start thinking of the mediums a bit more. It's like blogging, right? I keep telling myself blog again. Like, blogging died. I'm like, no, it's not died. People still blog, right? But I feel like in the testing space, there's less of it than there used to be. And it's like, again, because there's now obviously, generation things, like there's probably a bunch of amazing testing content on TikTok, right? I don't use TikTok, but I'm sure there is younger testers. Not to say you don't have to be younger, but there's probably all sorts going on there. But anyway, enough.
You heard it here, folks. Rich is going to be on TikTok as of next week, dancing his ideas out about software testing. I'm here for it. That would make me get a TikTok account, actually.
So we'll basically, whenever there's like a debate on LinkedIn, we'll turn it into a dance, and then we'll make that dance go viral. So we'll have the checking and testing dance.
Here's the thing: we would definitely go viral with that, for sure. I need to get Stu, because Stu's my number one dance partner, if you don't mind me saying. Stu Day,
Well,
the legend.
You can keep Stu as your dancing partner. That's fine by me, mate. Anyway, all right. It's time to wrap this one up. So, the things that people say you need to do on these things: subscribe and follow, share, like, comment, do all the things. Definitely comment, friendly, conversational debate. No, maybe we'll have debates. But anyway, share your thoughts in the comments. It's a safe space to do so. And we'd love to hear your thoughts as well and everything else. And yeah, we'll hear you in the next episode. So yeah, goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me. See you, folks.